Hello, my name is Joel Hughes, and today we're going to make Rappie Pie. If you're not from the southern counties of Nova Scotia, you might not know exactly what that is. It's an amazing main course entree that's consisting of potatoes and chicken or some other kind of protein. This dish dates back, many believe it originated around 1755 during the Great Deportation. British soldiers went up and took the French settlers out of Nova Scotia and pushed them on elsewhere. Many went to New Orleans, Louisiana. Some came to Boston. But during this time, Rappie Pie became quite prevalent, or at least when many of them came back to Nova Scotia, the dish gained in popularity. Some believe that the dish traces back even further, beyond 1755. But one thing certain is that in the process of creating Rappie Pie, you dehydrate, you take all the juice out of potatoes and then reconstitute it with broth. And it seems like a strange technique and not really sure why that came about. So I started to do a little research, and what I came up with is that people would make their own starch back in those days. And so to make potato starch, you would shred the potatoes and squeeze all the liquid out of them, and then rinse that liquid through cheesecloth and then dry out the powder that remained, and that was your starch. So you had this potato pulp left over that you wanted to do something with, and if you reconstituted it with broth, you had the makings of Rappie Pie. While there's a lot of different ways to make Rappie Pie, today we're making Uncle Jimmy's Rappie Pie. My mother's twin brother was the one in our family who made Rappie Pie the most for me, and today is a tribute to Uncle Jimmy, who passed away this year, leaving me as the only one left in my immediate family who makes this. First thing you're going to do is put your protein in a pot, and we're going to cook this off and at the same time make a broth. I've got a 6 to 7 pound chicken. Whoops. And want to use 2 to 3 pounds of pork, and I use country style spare ribs. We're going to use a couple big cans of chicken broth, and then about a gallon of water to cover it up. Last, I'm going to add 2, 3, 4 onions. If they're a little bit on the small side, I'll add a couple more. I'm going to take these onions, cut the top and bottom off, and then I'm going to take a paring knife and just cut through to the center. So that's going to open up when the water starts to boil and let a lot of the onion out into the broth. So you want to let this pot simmer at a rolling boil for about an hour and a half, and not too aggressive, just a little bubbling boil. And over the course of the 90 minutes, you're going to see some of the fat and impurities rise up to the top, and the liquid fat should be left in, but some of the impurities, you need to take a strainer and strain these out. Okay, while the broth is cooking for about 90 minutes, we're going to peel 20 to 25 pounds of potatoes. And it's important because once you peel the potatoes, they'll start to oxidize on you and turn brown, gray. And so you want to take those potatoes as you peel them and put them into a bowl of water, like so. Isn't that right, Alyssa Rose? Okay, I actually waited 2 hours, and now the chicken is thoroughly cooked and fallen off the bone. So now I'm going to pull out all the meat, the chicken and the pork. The pork adds a lot of flavor in terms of the meat, but also adds some nice fat to it. You need fat for Rappie Pie because it's what forms the crust in the pie. Okay, I'm going to let this cool down now before I debone the meat and break it up into small pieces and prepare it to be put into the Rappie Pie. While we're waiting for the meat to cool, let's process the potatoes. In the olden days, we used to use a hand grater to grate the potatoes into cheesecloth, which we would take small batches of potatoes and wring out the liquid to remove the starchy water from the potatoes, and then it would be reconstituted with boiling hot broth. Today, we're going to use technology, so we have this here Breville juice extractor, which will extract the starchy water from the potatoes and leave us with the potato pulp, which is perfect for Rappie Pie. Let's start it up. Okay, in small batches, we're going to take the potato pulp and reconstitute it with the broth. So after about every 2,000 or 2,500 milliliters of juice extracted out of the potatoes, I'm going to take that and put it right into my mixing bowl. And now, with that potato pulp, I'm going to reconstitute that dried pulp with chicken stock. So now I'm going to take my graduated glass measuring and look at, okay, and in small bits I'm going to pour some of the chicken broth in, and now I'm going to mix it up, and you see it very quickly absorbs all of the broth. So, a cup or two at a time. To make Rappie Pie, you need a really good pan. So my Uncle Jimmy used to always use a great big steel lasagna pan, and I use something very similar. It's a really heavy gauge anodized aluminum pan, but it works well and helps produce a really nice crust. What we're going to do is take this pan, use some traditional vegetable oil based cooking spray, and we're going to spray this down entirely and then use this to start layering in our potato mix. Okay, now it's time to debone all this meat. So I'm going to set up a couple different buckets here, one for fat and bones and one for meat. Now I'm going to take the meat and break it up to relatively small pieces so that I can layer this into my casserole. Oh, that's tender and beautiful. That's cooked, it's falling apart. Alright, now to assemble the pie. So we're going to take about half of our potato mix and just lay it into this big casserole dish. And then we're going to take all that meat and come on, man. It's not smoked, but it is brined in like salt and sugar and spices, and it is essentially the same thing as bacon. Okay, now it's time to put the assembled Rappie Pie into the oven. We've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees, and it is going to go in for 4.5 to 5 hours. Now, normally a smaller pie might be ready in a couple hours, but we've got about 24 pounds of potatoes in this one. We added some extras. 6 to 7 pound chicken, about 4 pounds of the pork, and a lot of broth and some onions. So we've got close to 30 pounds worth of ingredients in this casserole. It is a monster, and it's going to take all of 5 hours. See you then. Go. These are my daughters, Michaela and Alyssa Rose. Having my own children makes me want to enliven the traditions that I grew up with and make sure that they're still around for them to enjoy throughout their childhood and the rest of their lives. So making Rappie Pie is as much about them as it is about reliving my own childhood memories. Do you like Rappie Pie?
Yes. I love Rappie Pie.
And Alyssa Rose eats it as well. Okay, Rappie Pie's done, about 4.5 hours in the oven. Now, the one thing since childhood that we've always done that I have these giddy little memories about is coming over here and to the very edge, and this crust right on the edge, pulling that out. That golden brown, beautiful deliciousness right there. crunchy, savory, intense chicken. Wow, just wow. This is going to be good. Okay, plated it up, and it is crusty on the outside and then just soft and gooey on the inside. All that wonderful potatoes flavored with the chicken broth. So good. I strongly suggest giving it a try. A lot of work, but this is comfort food. French Canadian style.
Tragedy on the North Shore. A veteran firefighter killed in the line of duty. The firefighter leaving behind a wife and 3 young children just before Christmas.